This story of a former Michigan State representative serving. All righty, we move on to this story of a former Michigan State representative serving 3 terms representing his hometown of Dearborn. Last November, he was elected Dearborn's first Arab American mayor. WJR senior news analyst Lloyd Jackson had a chance over the weekend to spend some time and speak with Mayor Abdullah Hammoud in part 1 of a 3-part series. Good morning, Lloyd.
Good morning, Paul W. 31-year-old Dearborn, born and raised, Abdullah Hammoud is Muslim. His parents immigrated to the United States from Lebanon. Mayor Hammoud has a master's degree in business administration and a master's in public health from the U of M. Mayor Hammoud carved out some time for me over the weekend to have a discussion with him about his plans, his administration, and changing the narrative of what some outside of Dearborn think about the city. First thing is having accountability and accessibility to the citizens of Dearborn to hear their ideals and input in helping to govern the city.
Trust is first and foremost one of the most important things between government and people. If they don't trust you, then when you present an idea or a vision, there's not going to be a collective buy-in. And my vision is one where I'm co-governing side by side with the residents of the city, where it's not simply, Abdullah Hammoud's vision for the city of Dearborn. Rather, it's what is the city's collective vision, and how do we all roll up our sleeves, throw on those work boots, and march together in the same direction to help realize that vision.
A mayor can be great, but having a smart, diverse administration can be the difference between a great mayor and one that's dynamic. I asked Mayor Hammoud how important it is for him to have the right people surrounding him in his administration.
It really is extremely important that I have a team of trusted, competent individuals around the table who are smarter than myself. And let me tell you, everyone we have put in place is a subject matter expert in the area that we place them, but they're also smarter than me. And that's always a good sign.
And speaking with Mayor Hammoud, I found that just like a police officer that runs towards trouble and not away from it, he appears to want to run towards a challenge and not away from it.
I'm building an administration that finds a pathway to yes. I don't believe in simply just saying no because that's what's always been said or what's always been done. And when it comes down to the city of Dearborn, this is home for me. Born and raised in the city, the place that my wife and I are raising our daughter. And this is the place that I want my daughter to choose to raise her family, God willing, one day. And so, it's about running towards these challenges to address them if I ever want that vision to become a reality.
Dearborn has the largest Arab American population outside the Middle East, but the city's past includes longtime former Dearborn Mayor Orville Hubbard, who wanted to keep African American families from moving into Dearborn, which was majority white at the time. I asked Mayor Hammoud, how will he erase that narrative once and for all?
Dearborn has changed over the times. I know back in the Hubbard days, he coined, obviously, keep Dearborn clean, which meant keep it clean from African Americans, and that branched into keeping it clean from Arab Americans. But I'm here to say that it's a new era in the city of Dearborn, and this is a welcoming city for all individuals, regardless of their ethnicity, their race, their background, their religion. That here in this city, we value and appreciate our neighbors and the members of our community who are part of the Black and African American community, and look forward to partner with them to see what we can do to ensure that we are a welcoming city as well.
Coming up at 10:48 on All Talk with Kevin Dietz and Tom Jordan, I asked Mayor Hammoud about racial profiling and new policing priorities in Dearborn and how he plans on working with his new city council. Paul W.
Actions speak louder than words. If you want to know how far Dearborn's come since, it's hard to imagine his name keeps coming up still, Orville Hubbard, to see how far they've come. It's just by virtue of the fact that Mayor Abdullah Hammoud was elected in the first place.
Absolutely. Yes.
And I didn't realize we're cousins.
Are you?
Yeah, because my grandparents came from Lebanon as well, up in Zachali, up in the beautiful part of outside of Beirut. But anyway, so this is all good news. And as it turns out, we all have things that we have to overcome. I never knew that Mayor Kobo was the racist that we learned he was when we had to. When they said they didn't want to put his name on anything. So you learn these things as we go along. But the beauty is we fix them as we go along. We find where we made mistakes, and we correct them. And so I salute Mayor Hammoud for everything he's doing, and any way we can help him along the way, we will. I'll look forward to hearing your the rest, or part two, I guess, of a three-part series you're doing here with the boys in the talk coming up. What time again?
10:48.
10:48, part two. Thank you, Lloyd.
Thank you, Paul W.
Lloyd Jackson, WJR senior news analyst, taking a very sharp look at Dearborn and your new mayor as he gets to work.
Back to All Talk with Tom Jordan and Kevin Dietz, 760 WJR.
Just over a week now, the city of Dearborn has a new mayor. Abdullah Hammoud was sworn in January 15th, Kevin, and says he is now on a mission.
Yeah, he was a former Michigan State representative serving 3 terms representing his hometown of Dearborn, and last November elected Dearborn's first Arab American mayor. WJR senior news analyst Lloyd Jackson had a chance to sit down with him, and Lloyd joins us now. Hey, Lloyd.
Good morning, guys. Yeah, on the Paul W. Smith show this morning, it was part one of my conversation with the newly elected Dearborn Mayor Abdullah Hammoud. He discussed accountability and accessibility to the citizens of Dearborn to solve problems together. Also, the importance of a diverse administration and how he wants to quell the ghost of former Mayor Orville Hubbard once and for all. Now, in part two of my conversation with Mayor Hammoud, I brought up the fact that for years, some African Americans outside the city of Dearborn feel there is racial profiling by police when they enter the city. Mayor Hammoud says he has a new police chief, Issa Shaheen, the first Muslim police chief in Dearborn and in the state of Michigan. And before they both took office, he said they sat down and spoke and made changes in the vision of public safety.
We're no longer targeting, folks for non-moving violations. Things such as expired license plates or missing insurance or dangling ornaments in your windshield. What we're doing is we're focusing on things that impact your immediate public health: speeding, reckless driving, potential DUIs, individuals driving under the influence. And that does 2 things. One, it addresses a real issue that's impacting the safety of a potential family or children in the neighborhood. And secondly, it's eliminating some racial bias that's imposed on an officer that might pull someone over for a non-moving violation.
Now, I asked Mayor Hammoud how he plans on working with his new city council to solve the city's biggest problems while being transparent.
And the way I see my city council is I say I have 7 partners to partner with on an agenda that can help move our city forward. And so we're doing our best to, accommodate, and to work alongside our council men and women in order to advance agendas and priorities that we can all come to agreements with.
Now, Mayor Hammoud says that doesn't mean a dictatorship style of government.
It's not my goal to have 7 votes on every ordinance that I bring forward. That's not doing anyone, that's doing people a disservice, frankly. It's we need to have disagreement. Disagreement leads to, I think, a stronger vision, stronger ideas, and compromise is not a dirty word. Compromise is something that we're willing to come to the table to realize and achieve, as long as it's a compromise that prioritizes the concerns and the quality of life for Dearborn residents. So I very much look forward to that partnership with our council, and we have one heck of a council, I have to say.
The 31-year-old mayor said in his inaugural address that he will make mistakes along the way and he will not always succeed. Now, there are not a lot of politicians, of any, that will admit that out loud. And I asked Mayor Hammoud, why was that so important to say?
And it's really in those moments where you fail, where you learn more of yourself and those around you than in any other situation. And so I thought it prudent that I speak to that I know I'm young, because people point that out. I know I might be the first, although we never ran to be the first, we ran to be the best. But no one bats perfectly, so those failures will be made, mistakes will be made, but not out of any ill intentions.
Now, coming up at 3:48 on the Guy Gordon Show, the conclusion of my conversation with Mayor Hammoud, he gives me an example of what he says is a co-governing system with the citizens of Dearborn. Also, how he plans on dealing with the COVID pandemic and opioid abuse in his city, plus some words from the late John Dingell that stuck with him. That's coming up at 3:48.
Yeah, really refreshing to hear the way he talks and his willingness to compromise and talk about making mistakes. It's interesting to hear. He, people think of Dearborn. It's close to the airport. Ford Motor Company's there. It's very important to Wayne County, very important to Southeast Michigan. And he talked there about how they're going to make decisions that are best for their citizens. Did he talk at all about encouraging more visitors to Dearborn, to get more people from Southeast Michigan or the rest of the state to come check Dearborn out?
Absolutely. He wants people to know that Dearborn is open for business, open to all communities to come in and participate in what's going on in the city of Dearborn. And he says he knows in the past, Dearborn has not been very friendly to businesses, and he's going to change that. And it's just a new day in the city of Dearborn. He can't wait to roll up his sleeves and work with the citizens to get things done in the city.
It was remarkable to me when I was listening to and reading about this. Abed Hammoud, he was crying as he watched this inauguration. He ran for mayor of Dearborn in 2001. The primary was on September 11th, 2001,
That's right.
the day of the
Yeah.
terrorist attacks.
hmm
And imagine how that must have affected his campaign. He didn't, of course, win in the general election that year, but seeing how far we have come since 2001 and what has transpired since then, a very emotional day as he was sworn into office just over a week ago.
Yeah, and he's looking forward to it. He has a great start. He has great visions for the city of Dearborn, and he has a great buy-in so far from the citizens because he says trust and transparency are the two items that you must have in something being the mayor of a city like Dearborn, and he's going to make sure he keeps that with his citizens and have them be involved in what goes on in his city.
Your interview there reminded me of a story. My very first year working as a journalist in town, and I'm talking this is now almost 30 years ago. The photographer that I was working with, we had to go to Dearborn to do a story, and we were going to stop for lunch. And he said, "No, I will not spend any money in Dearborn because they target African Americans." He believed they targeted African Americans. He was an African American photographer, and he said he was not going to do business in that community. And to hear you talk about this being a concern 30 years later, and the mayor talking about addressing this is very interesting to me. And I hope they're able to overcome that.
Well, and I think he's the type of guy, and I mentioned this in part one of my series that like a police officer that runs towards a crime or run towards a problem, he's the type of mayor that will run towards an issue or run towards a challenge. He wants to solve it. He wants to find a way to say, yes, we can do it, as opposed to saying, no, we can't do it. And, he's the kind of person who's not going to, let things slip up under the covers. When he knows it's out there, he's going to address the big elephant in the room. And so there are things that are going to be changed, the things that are different. And, that whole ghost of Orville Hubbard from way back when, the old former mayor who was mayor for such a long time there and who did not want, African Americans in. And as far as Mayor Abdullah Hammoud says, he says probably not Arab Americans either. So he says, they're going to make some changes on how they do things, and they want Dearborn to be a welcoming city to everyone.
Yeah, one thing they got to work on too, a big challenge he's got to face since he's so eager to do these, face-to-face issues with these challenges is flooding. It's been a decades-long issue. We saw it last summer in the city of Dearborn as well. So I'm sure he's strategized and has a plan for the flooding issue in the city of Dearborn, right?
Definitely. He says that's actually priority one for him is to do something about the flooding, the infrastructure, and make sure people are taken care of. And because he says the clock is ticking. Really, it's not if, it's a when. It's going to happen again.
Sounds like he has confidence in his council, though. So if they have to make tough decisions, it looks like they can work together.
It looks like it, and like he says, he doesn't want to have a dictatorship. Everybody agree with him. He's going to have some hits and misses, but they're going to work together to make it good.
It is a new day in the city of Dearborn with a new mayor, and we'll also get you updated on this just horrific case. The victim, a pregnant woman pregnant with twins, who now has burns on 60% of her body. We'll get updated on both of them. Let's start with the Dearborn mayor, the first Arab American and Muslim mayor there in the city of Dearborn, WJR senior news analyst Lloyd Jackson with this look. Hi, Lloyd.
Hey, Guy. Yeah, this morning on the All Talk with Kevin Dietz and Tom Jordan, you heard part two of my conversation with newly elected Dearborn Mayor Abdullah Hammoud. He discussed complaints of racial profiling and a new vision for public safety in Dearborn, his plan on working side by side with Dearborn City Council to solve major problems, and why he admitted out loud in his inaugural address that he will not always succeed and there will be mistakes. Now, as I wrap up my conversation with the Dearborn mayor, one of his main plans is to work closely with the citizens on what the problems are and what's needed to fix them. And that not only means hearing their complaints and ideas, but making sure the right people are in place to help him be successful as mayor.
Immediately following the election in November, I announced a community transition team. This was largely made up of residents. They sat at the table with me and interviewed just about every single director that I have appointed to this day. So it wasn't just Abdullah Hammoud's decision. Frankly, it was the community's decision on who should be at the helm of each of our departments, just to demonstrate even further my strong beliefs in a co-governing system.
The state of Michigan and the rest of the country are in the midst of a COVID-19 pandemic, and there have been vaccine sites and testing sites set up in Dearborn. But besides COVID, Dearborn also has a problem with opioids as well. Mayor Hammoud, who has a health and epidemiology background, says from an organizational standpoint, he's going to bring in more help.
We're bringing in a director of public health, someone who will help advise on many of the public health issues that our city is facing. And frankly, every decision we make as a city has a public health element to it. And so our public health director will focus not only on issues such as COVID and the pandemic, but also trying to address the opioid epidemic. And the city of Dearborn has just received notice that we're going to receive $900,000 from the state of Michigan from the opioid settlement with some of the major opioid manufacturers. That $900,000 will be used for preventative and or treatment for those who are suffering from substance and drug use.
And finally, when he started this journey as mayor of Dearborn, he thought of some words of the late Congressman John Dingell, who said, elected officials do not have power. They hold power and trust for the people who elected him. I asked Mayor Hammoud what those words meant to him.
And what it means is that, the authority that I have as mayor has been bestowed upon me or granted to me by the residents of the city, and I need not forget that. But ultimately, I serve the residents, and that was the goal in opening up with those lines, is centering that the residents are our primary focus, that they are top of mind behind each and every decision that we make as an administration.
Mayor Hammoud says, in assuming the office of mayor, we just don't inherit a shared past. We also inherit responsibility for the future. I want to thank the mayor and his team for allowing me some time to speak with him. And I expect, guys, some big things and changes from him during his time as mayor of Dearborn.
We've had him on a few times here on our show, Lloyd, and he's a very thoughtful guy. And he has been on the forefront of some pretty big reforms going forward that really were very bipartisan in nature. So he is someone that knows how to reach across, and I think that's a good thing, and it's certainly a skill that he's going to need in Dearborn, is because there's such a diverse community there.